I'm offering you 3 times whatever you make in Chicago.
My God, that's an amazing offer.
I'm so sorry, man. Let me get that.
It's all right.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, man.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
You should be sorry.
Mark and Phil undercover FBI agents on a dangerous mission. They arrive at an abandoned, ruined location after receiving intel about a major drug deal. Disguised as fake dealers, they prepare to trap the suppliers before things get out of control. Mark originally came from a small but beautiful island and moved to the US 11 years ago after joining the FBI. While he built his life in America, his family still lives back on the island. His mother Yvonne, his brother Akeem, and his girlfriend Akila. Phil, on the other hand, is a born and raised American. Cold, skilled, and focused. He has no real family left, only the job. A few moments later, the drug suppliers finally arrive. Mark walks over to their vehicle to verify the deal while Phil stands at a distance, carefully watching every move. One of the suppliers approaches Phil with a gun, demanding proof that they're real dealers and asking to see the money. But Phil stays completely calm and confidently shows the cash without flinching. Meanwhile, Mark carefully checks the drugs and confirms the shipment is real. For a moment, everything seems smooth and under control, until suddenly both agents switch into action mode. Within seconds, chaos erupts. Mark and Phil take down the suppliers in a brutal fight and successfully complete the mission. Just as things calm down, Mark receives a phone call from his mother. Her voice is shaking as she tells him something horrifying: his brother Akeem has been murdered. The news leaves Mark completely stunned. A few months earlier, Mark's brother Akeem had started working as a bartender at a luxury bar owned by a millionaire businessman named Manuel. One evening, a Nigerian singer named Nora arrived at the bar looking for a job. She handed Manuel her music demo, and after hearing her sing, he was instantly impressed. Manuel offered her 3 times the normal salary, but with one condition. Every Saturday and Sunday night, she would have to spend time with him personally. Excited by the offer, Nora agrees. To celebrate, Manuel asks Akeem to bring wine to their table. But while serving, Akeem accidentally spills a little wine on Nora's clothes. Panicked, Akeem immediately starts apologizing again and again, while Nora calmly tells him it's okay. But Manuel suddenly snaps. His expression turns cold as he reminds Akeem that he's been working there for 3 months and should know one rule.
Then customer is king.
Then, without warning, Manuel violently kills Akeem on the spot. Nora is left completely horrified. In that moment, she realizes Manuel isn't just a businessman. He's a ruthless international gangster running illegal operations across multiple countries. Because the island has weak law enforcement, he's been using it as the perfect place to expand his criminal empire. Right now, Nora is the only witness to Akeem's murder. Manuel makes it clear that she now belongs on the island, and if she even tries to escape, he'll have her killed. To avoid suspicion, Manuel orders his men to dump Akeem's body near the shore. Soon, the island locals discover the body, and the tragic news spreads everywhere. The next day, Mark arrives on the island. Alongside his mother and the local community, he completes Akeem's funeral rituals while struggling to control his grief and anger. The island itself is small but breathtakingly beautiful, filled with peaceful homes and a close-knit community. But beneath that beauty lies one major weakness: the government has very little control there, and law enforcement is almost non-existent. For criminals like Manuel, it's the perfect place to operate in the shadows. A little later, Mark returns home with his mother Yvonne. Still devastated by Akeem's death, she breaks down in tears while holding his old belongings and remembering him. Mark hadn't seen his brother in almost 11 years. Standing inside Akeem's room looking through his old things, the loss finally starts to hit him emotionally. After some time, Mark asks Yvonne if she knows anything about the murder, but she says she knows almost nothing. The only thing she remembers is that Akeem had recently started working as a bartender at a local bar a few months earlier. But Mark isn't just a grieving brother, he's an FBI agent, and there's no way he's going to sit back quietly after his brother's murder. So Mark decides to investigate the case himself and uncover whoever is responsible. Mark's first stop is the local police station, where he reunites with Wayland, the island's head officer, and also his childhood best friend. After 11 long years, the two are genuinely happy to see each other again. But the mood quickly turns serious when Wayland explains how much the island has changed since Mark left. Because law enforcement was always weak, powerful gangsters and illegal businessmen from nearby countries slowly started moving in. They used the island as a safe place to run massive criminal operations without much interference. Soon, gang wars, violent clashes, and constant tension became part of everyday life. To appear legitimate, these criminals opened luxury bars, hotels, and businesses across the island. They even provided jobs to local people, which slowly made the community accept their presence. Hearing all this leaves Mark shocked. He immediately asks Wayland about Akeem's murder. Wayland admits they still don't have any solid evidence, but one thing is almost certain: Akeem was killed by someone connected to one of these powerful gangs. After leaving the police station, Mark goes to meet his girlfriend, Akila. She's a skilled martial arts champion who runs a training school for the island's kids. Since their meeting after a long time, the two spend hours talking. During the conversation, Akila tells Mark that she believes Manuel is behind Akeem's murder. According to her, Manuel is an extremely dangerous gangster who kills anyone over even the smallest mistake. Hearing this, Mark heads straight to Manuel's bar to find the truth for himself. At the bar, Mark directly questions Manuel about Akeem's death. But Manuel isn't some ordinary criminal. He's a millionaire gangster with a deadly reputation. He's killed countless people, yet somehow never faced a single case against him. At the Philly time, Manuel knows Mark is an FBI agent. If Mark becomes suspicious, he could expose everything. So Manuel stays calm and claims that another gang killed Akeem after leaving the bar that night. Then he gives Mark the address of another nightclub and tells him that if he wants the truth, he should go there that very night, because Akeem's real killers will be there. Mark takes the address, but before leaving, he looks Manuel in the eye and warns him, "If I find out you had anything to do with my brother's murder, you're not leaving this island alive." The moment Mark walks away, Manuel's calm expression disappears. Nervous and threatened, he immediately orders one of his men to send armed killers to that nightclub and eliminate Mark before he gets too close to the truth. On the other side, Mark goes to meet his old friend Tassim. Tassim now runs a small food stall. Seeing Mark again after so many years makes Tassim genuinely happy. During their conversation, Tassim expresses his sadness over Akeem's death. But then the conversation takes a serious turn when Mark asks about their old weapons. And suddenly, a huge secret is revealed before moving to America. Mark and Tassim once ran their own gang on the island. But unlike other criminals, their mission was to hunt down dangerous gangsters like Manuel, who came to the island to run illegal operations. Tassim tells Mark that he secretly hid all their old weapons inside an abandoned house years ago. Mark goes there, digs beneath the ground, and recovers the hidden arsenal. That night, armed and prepared, Mark heads to the nightclub Manuel told him about. But before anything happens, he carefully evacuates all the innocent civilians inside, making sure no one gets caught in the crossfire. After clearing out the civilians, Mark starts questioning the gang members about his brother's murder. But instead of taking him seriously, the gang mocks him, throws insults at him, and warns him to leave before things get ugly. Mark controls his anger and calmly asks one more time about Akeem's death. That's when everything explodes. The gang leader suddenly points a gun directly at Mark, but in one lightning-fast move, Mark disarms him instantly. Seeing this, the rest of the gang pulls out their weapons, forcing Mark into a brutal fight. One by one, Mark takes them all down. Finally, he grabs the gang leader and demands answers about his brother's murder, but the man swears none of them killed Akeem. At that moment, Mark's suspicion shifts completely toward Manuel. Just as Mark is about to leave, armed bikers sent by Manuel suddenly storm the area and open fire on him without warning. These weren't ordinary thugs, they were heavily armed, making the situation far more dangerous. Realizing he's outnumbered, Mark escapes through the back exit while the bikers chase him through the streets. As he runs through narrow alleys, he fires back whenever he gets the chance, but the riders refuse to back off. In the end, Mark cleverly manages to lose them and hides in a safe location. Unable to find him, the bikers are forced to retreat. One of them immediately calls Manuel and tells him that Mark escaped. Hearing this sends Manuel into a furious rage. Screaming over the phone, he gives a terrifying new order. If you can't kill Mark, kill his mother, Yvonne. Without wasting another second, the three bikers race straight toward Mark's house. The bikers quietly break into Mark's house and make their way straight to Yvonne's bedroom. Without hesitation, they open fire, unloading bullets into the bed. But when they get closer, they freeze in shock. Yvonne isn't there. The bed is filled with pillows instead. Mark had already seen this coming. To protect his mother, he secretly moved her to Akila's house before the attack. Frustrated and furious, the bikers prepare to leave. But before going, one of them notices a photo frame, a picture of Mark and Akila together. He takes the photo with him. Not long after, the police receive reports about the violent fight at the nightclub. Wayland immediately arrives there with his team to investigate. During the investigation, he also learns that armed men attacked Mark's home. Hearing this, Wayland quickly calls Mark to the house. The moment Mark sees the damage done to his home, rage fills his eyes. He turns to Wayland and says, "This is our island. Our ancestors built it with their own hands, and yet we're not even safe here anymore." Wayland has no answer. A little later, Wayland reveals an important lead. During the investigation, they discovered a Nigerian woman named Nora, who may know the truth about Akeem's murder. If she talks, the entire case could finally be solved. The very next day, Mark goes straight to Nora's hotel. He finds her room and asks her to open the door, but Nora is terrified and refuses. Mark then shows her his FBI badge, slowly gaining her trust. Finally, she carefully opens the door. When Mark finally speaks with Nora face to face, she completely breaks down in tears. Mark promises her protection and tells her that if she tells the truth, he'll get her safely off the island that very day. For the first time, Nora feels a small spark of hope. She tells Mark everything: how she came to the island, how Manuel murdered Akeem in front of her, and how she was trapped there afterward because she witnessed the crime. Hearing the truth only fuels Mark's anger even more. At that moment, he fully commits himself to taking revenge on Manuel, no matter what it takes. Keeping his promise, Mark safely gets Nora out of the hotel and hands her over to Wayland. Wayland then escorts her to a port, arranges her ticket, and finally helps her leave the the island safely before Manuel's men can reach her. Meanwhile, Mark arrives at Aquila's house, where he finally tells Aquila and his mother Yvonne the full truth: Manuel is the man responsible for Akim's murder. At the File time, we see Manuel's mansion, where several men are being held captive. These were the File armed bikers who failed to kill Mark and Yvonne the previous night, and everyone knows how Manuel deals with failure. Enraged by their mistake, Manuel brutally kills 2 of the riders on the spot, but the third biker quickly shows him the photo he stole from Mark's house, a picture of Mark and Aquila together. He also reveals Aquila's home and martial arts school addresses. These bikers were actually island locals working for Manuel only for money. Wanting to pressure and control Mark, Manuel decides to kidnap Aquila. He immediately sends a team to her martial arts school, but when they don't find her there, they head straight to her house instead. Inside the house, Mark, Aquila, and Yvonne are talking, when Mark suddenly hears vehicles arriving outside. Instantly sensing danger, Mark grabs the hidden weapons he prepared earlier. He keeps one gun for himself and hands another to Aquila. The 3 quickly escape through the back door and run toward the jungle behind the house. Meanwhile, the attackers storm inside and begin searching the property. Soon, 2 of them notice the back door open and follow their trail into the jungle. As the 3 of them run through the forest, the attackers finally spot them and immediately open fire. Mark quickly takes cover and fires back with deadly precision. At the File time, Wayland receives news about the attack. Without wasting a second, he rushes to Aquila's house and joins the fight. Opening fire on the attackers, they begin losing control. Mark manages to take down one of the gunmen, while the second becomes terrified by the intense gunfire and runs for his life. With Wayland continuing heavy return fire, the remaining attackers are forced to retreat and escape before things get even worse. Wanting to know if Mark and his family survived the attack, Wayland immediately calls him. Thankfully, Mark confirms that he, Yvonne, and Aquila are all safe, but Mark's anger has now reached another level. He tells Wayland that he's not going to let Manuel get away with this. Before making his next move, though, he knows he must get his mother and Aquila somewhere safe. A short time later, Mark takes them to the home of his old friend Tessiam. Looking serious, Mark tells Tessiam, "From this moment, their safety is your responsibility. Nothing can happen to them." But Aquila refuses to stay behind. She argues with Mark, telling him she's not going to let him face Manuel alone. The 2 go back and forth for a while, but in the end, Mark leaves his mother Yvonne with Tessiam and takes Aquila with him. Meanwhile, Manuel personally arrives at Nora's room to check on her himself, but the moment he enters the room, he realizes something is wrong. Nora's gone. Manuel's expression instantly changes, and for the first time, real panic starts to appear on his face. Furious, he immediately calls in the man responsible for watching Nora. Grabbing him aggressively, Manuel demands to know where she is. Terrified, the man explains that the last time he saw Nora was the previous afternoon when he brought her food. After that, he has no idea what happened to her. Hearing this sends Manuel into complete rage. He instantly realizes the danger. If Nora reaches the police and tells the truth, every one of his crimes could be exposed, and the criminal empire he built would come crashing down. Later that night, Mark and Aquila are sitting in an isolated area, talking quietly. After all the deadly attacks, Aquila is genuinely scared now. She begs Mark to make peace with Manuel before things get even worse, but Mark refuses immediately. With complete confidence, he tells her that this island belongs to them, and he won't stop until not only Manuel, but every gangster on the island is wiped out for good. While they're talking, a car suddenly pulls up nearby. Mark assumes it's Wayland and starts calling out to him, but when no one responds, he senses something is wrong. Slowly, he approaches the vehicle and looks inside. The moment he opens the door, he's horrified. Wayland is inside, covered in blood and barely alive. Mark quickly grabs him, trying to help, while Wayland struggles to say something important with his final breaths. But before he can finish, gunfire erupts. Manuel's men suddenly launch an ambush. Mark and Aquila instantly pull out their weapons and return fire, but the situation quickly becomes chaotic. Mark is stuck near the car with the dying Wayland, while Aquila is left fighting alone at a distance. Taking advantage of this, several attackers rush toward Aquila, but Aquila is a martial arts champion, and she fights them off fiercely by herself. Still, in the middle of the fight, one attacker sneaks behind her and strikes her hard from behind. The men immediately grab her and start dragging her away. Mark tries to run toward her, but at the File moment, Wayland is desperately trying to reveal something important before dying. Forced to choose, Mark stays beside Wayland, while the kidnappers escape with Aquila. And just seconds later, one of Manuel's men shoots Wayland dead right in front of Mark. Watching his childhood friend die completely breaks him. Wayland wasn't just a police officer, he was family to Mark, and now he lost his life because of this war. The next morning, Mark is seen standing inside the island's church, surrounded by almost the entire community. In front of everyone, he finally exposes the truth about Manuel. Mark tells them that even though Manuel gives people jobs and pretends to help the island, in reality he's a ruthless criminal. He murdered Akim, kidnapped Aquila, and is also responsible for Inspector Wayland's death. Then Mark gives the people a warning. If we stay silent today, tomorrow Manuel will kill anyone who stands in his way. Hearing this changes everything. The islanders finally realize the danger Manuel truly represents, and one by one they decide to stand with Mark and drive Manuel off the island for good. After leaving the church, Mark heads straight to the police station. There, he informs the officers about Wayland's death and tells them that from now on, he'll lead the case in Wayland's place. The officers agree to stand beside him. Inside Wayland's office, Mark opens his laptop and discovers something shocking. Before dying, Wayland had already gathered powerful evidence against Manuel. The laptop contains records of Manuel's legal businesses, his criminal connections, and strong proof tying him to illegal operations across the island. And suddenly Mark realizes this is probably what Wayland was desperately trying to tell him before he died. Meanwhile, Aquila is being held captive inside an old ruined mansion, hidden in a deserted part of the island. A little later, FBI agent Phil finally arrives on the island. Mark had been ignoring his calls for days, which made Phil seriously worried. So he came to find Mark himself. When they meet, Mark tells Phil everything that has happened on the island Akeem's murder, Manuel's empire, Wayland's death, and Aquila's kidnapping. After hearing the full story, Phil immediately decides to stay and help him. Mark tries to refuse, but Phil ignores him and stands by his side anyway. Later that night, while Mark is driving home from the police station, he suddenly receives a call from Manuel. Manuel offers him a deal. Tomorrow morning at exactly 7 a.m., come alone to the location I send you and hand Nora over to me. In return, I'll release Aquila. Mark agrees to the deal almost instantly, but Manuel has made one huge mistake. He has no idea that Mark already helped Nora escape the island safely, and because of that misunderstanding, Mark now has the perfect opportunity to rescue Aquila. By this point, Mark has also discovered the exact location where Aquila is being held, so he immediately calls Phil and creates a solid plan. Manuel purposely chose a meeting location far away from the place where Aquila was imprisoned so he could stay in control if anything went wrong. Knowing this, Mark tells Phil, at 7 a.m., I'll meet Manuel and keep him distracted. Meanwhile, you and a few trusted officers get to Aquila's location before sunrise and get her out safely. The next morning, everything moves according to the plan. Before 7 a.m., Phil and a small team of trusted officers quietly arrive at the abandoned building where Aquila is being held captive. Manuel had heavily armed guards protecting the place, but Phil and his team move carefully, silently taking down the gang members one by one without raising alarms. Aquila is locked inside a room on the first floor. With extreme caution, Phil and the officers slowly make their way upstairs, preparing for a rescue operation that could turn deadly at any moment. Meanwhile, Mark arrives alone at the meeting location Manuel had chosen. The place is nothing but an old ruined compound surrounded by silence. One of Manuel's men searches Mark for weapons before allowing him. A few moments later, Manuel himself walks up to face Mark. Mark immediately demands that Aquila be released, but Manuel coldly replies, first, give me Nora, then you'll get Aquila back. Trying to buy time for Phil's mission, Mark pretends to make a phone call and tells Manuel that his man is already on the way with Nora. Meanwhile, Phil and the officers continue clearing the mansion floor by floor until they finally reach the first floor, where Aquila is being held captive. Just as they move in to rescue her, a hidden female attacker suddenly appears and kills one of the officers before anyone can react. The situation instantly turns deadly, but Phil stays calm. He quickly raises his hands and pretends to surrender, making the attacker lower her guard for a split second. That's all Phil needs. In one lightning-fast move, he pulls out his rifle and shoots her down instantly. With the immediate danger gone, Phil rushes to free Aquila, but before he can finish, another hidden guard suddenly appears behind him and points a gun directly at his head. Once again, the situation flips, but this time Aquila is already free. Using her martial arts skills, she delivers one powerful kick that knocks the guard to the ground, and Phil immediately finishes him off. After losing 2 officers during the mission, Phil finally succeeds in rescuing Aquila safely. Without wasting time, he quickly calls Mark and tells him, Aquila is safe. The moment Mark hears those words, his entire expression changes. He immediately reveals the truth to Manuel. Nora already escaped the island. At that moment, Manuel realizes he's lost all control over the situation. Panicking, he quickly calls his men and orders them to kill Aquila immediately. But he has no idea that Phil and the officers already wiped out every guard at the mansion. No one answers his calls, and that's when Manuel finally understands. Everything is collapsing around him. Desperate, he orders one of his men to kill Mark, while he himself tries to escape the ruins before it's too late. But before Manuel's guard can shoot, Mark takes him down in a single brutal move. The guard struggles to get back up and tries firing again, but suddenly, islanders arrive at the scene. Without hesitation, they attack Manuel's remaining men and wipe them out before surrounding Manuel himself. Realizing he's trapped, Manuel pulls out a dagger and tries to intimidate Mark. But Mark charges at him instantly, and a fierce hand-to-hand fight breaks out between the two. After an intense struggle, Mark finally disarms Manuel and takes the dagger away from him. Then, in a moment of pure revenge, Mark kills Manuel the exact way Manuel murdered his brother Akeem. Watching Manuel fall, the islanders feel relieved and victorious. At last, the dangerous gangster who terrorized their island is gone forever. In the final moments, Mark and Aquila are seen sitting together by the ocean. There, Mark finally proposes to her, and Aquila happily says yes. A little later, Phil arrives and asks Mark to return to America with him, but Mark quietly refuses. He says this island is his home, and from now on, he'll stay here to protect his land and his people. With that, Phil leaves alone for America, and the story finally comes to an end.